Welcome to Napa Valley Inside Out. I'm Latife Hayson, and I am delighted to be hosting this podcast, shining a light on one of the most beautiful and coveted lifestyles in the world. If you're interested in developing a property, planting a vegetable garden, making olive oil, fashion, architecture, interior design, county rules and regulations, biking paths, art, getting into the wine business, farming practices, the tax benefits of owning a vineyard, or the ultimate private tours and tastings, and all the fabulous annual cultural events we enjoy here, and so much more, then you won't want to miss this show. Every week I will be interviewing amazing talent, vintners, entrepreneurs, leaders, consultants, festival organizers, and well-known personalities in the Valley. They will share their knowledge, experience, advice, goals, passions, and their best-kept secrets. Hello everybody, Chris Canning, Mayor of Calistoga, is with us today. Chris has been the Mayor since 2012. He's also the Executive Director of the Calistoga Chamber of Commerce. And he's going to be talking to us today about the evolution of Calistoga and how the city's navigating some of the challenges that come with change. So Chris, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Very happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
I love Calistoga, so I'm excited.
Truth be told, so do I.
Let's start out with a little history on your road to Napa.
Sure.
Since you got your degree in criminal justice and sociology.
So I'm a native New Englander, born and raised there, and then went to college there. And then started shortly after graduation working for Nestle Waters out of Boston, transferred around to Chicago, Paris, and then after living in Paris for 3.5 years, was transferred to take up the business of Calistoga Mineral Water Company in Calistoga. And that was about 12 years ago.
And what happened to that? They closed down because?
Several factors. It had been in the portfolio for a couple of decades and it wasn't doing very well, so I was kind of the last ditch effort for it. And economics, location, labor costs, things of that nature, and it just didn't work out, unfortunately.
So what are they going to do with that?
So the property is still vacant. It's a total of about 14 acres, 9 of which is occupied by the building itself, and then there's a vacant parcel in the back of 5 acres. They have a tenant in there, a barrel builder. They've had several other tenants inquire, everything from a distillery to a brewery to wine production. The Swiss, Nestle, is not a very motivated seller. So there's not really interest in selling the property, and they're not a very motivated landlord because it's kind of a rounding error on the balance sheet. They're a great corporate citizen. They sponsor, for 8 years have sponsored our concerts in the park, which are very popular. The property upkeep, anything we ask them for, they're happy to hand over. It's just a matter of, what they want to do with the property as they move forward. And they've had a CEO change as well, so they're kind of working through that.
I'm sure they're happy to hang on to it with the real estate market values going in the direction that they're going to go in, right?
Again, they're Swiss. It doesn't mean a lot to them.
Calistoga, until very recently, has always been known as a funky spa mud bath town. And residential real estate prices have not been at the same level as other up valley towns. But all of that changed within the last year or so when the Four Seasons really started to come out of the ground. And of course they've sold 16 of their 20 luxury homes, and which broke all records for Calistoga sales. Mm-hmm. And we've subsequently had other residential sales that have broken records too, which has been fantastic. And of course the Rosewood Hotel is coming. And, you and I have discussed that they've spent so much time and money on the infrastructure and will continue to do so for another year before they start to come out of the ground. But what impact do you think that these two major hotels, resorts, with their luxury homes, they both have luxury homes, will have on Calistoga?
First, a very important clarification I always like to make is the properties will be operated by Four Seasons and operated by Rosewood, but they will be called something else because what's important to the character and nature of Calistoga is we have a no formula ordinance, no chains.
Yes.
So they're both happy to adhere to that, and it's important to us because we want to maintain that small town character, charm, etc. Certainly, we've benefited from the likes of Solage when they came to Calistoga some 12 years ago. A little bit different with Four Seasons property and Rosewood because of the residential element. There were concerns when Solage opened that it would change the character of Calistoga. Now we'd have all these people who are just going to stay on their property, not come into Calistoga and experience it, and that was certainly not the case. We're excited about it. We are going to welcome the visitors as well as those that are going to be living in the residences. I don't think it's going to have a fundamental change or impact on the overall character of Calistoga. Certainly there'll be some improvements to real estate values, et cetera, to current homeowners. But we're excited, and part of what makes Calistoga, unique and interesting is that we're laid back, relaxed. Our motto is relax, you're in Calistoga. And those are the folks that we're going to welcome the most when they do come through.
Yeah, so how many hotel rooms roughly between the two will it add?
So as of today, we have 762 hotel rooms, to be exact.
That are operating
That
now.
are operating today,
Right.
as we sit here. And the Four Seasons property is going to add 89 rooms. And then the Rosewood property, they're still in discussion. They can add up to a maximum of 110. But Rosewood tends to have a little bit more of an intimate setting, so they're somewhere below 110 is where they're going to end up. And that's
Right.
to be determined at this point.
So that clientele is a luxury clientele.
Correct.
Without question.
Yeah.
And those hotels will have people come from all over the world because they follow Rosewood. They stay wherever there's a Rosewood. They stay wherever there's a Four Seasons. And in fact, they invest because it's just Four Seasons, not because they're looking to buy Napa Valley necessarily, I've heard. That has to change downtown Napa. Shops, wouldn't you say? Stores. Do you expect a big change in the next 5 to 10 years of the kind of stores that you have in town?
I think there's going to be a natural transition and evolution to that experience, driven by some of the different needs or desires of people that come visit. We thought there would be a significant change when Solage had come, and wasn't the case. But the retail industry as a whole, as you well know, is very different. A little bit more unique to Calistoga is the fact that we don't allow for chains. So that kind of limits your universe of people that could come there in terms of retailers. But I think you're going to see, and we just most recently found out that Brandon's was going to be closing. That's been a staple downtown restaurant in Calistoga for 20 some odd years. But these changes are natural. They're going to happen. One of the challenges I have and the city council has as the mayor is balancing this change for, the benefit of the people who come to visit us, and more importantly, candidly, the benefit and the impact to the people that live there currently and in the future. So we have to be very careful about how that goes, but there are also natural market economics and dynamics that happen as well.
Right, so Brandon's is closing. That's breaking
They are.
news.
They announced it on Monday. Their last day is this coming Sunday, which will be July 29th.
It's incredible how many restaurants are closing in Up Valley or Napa Valley. Well,
That's the first big one in Calistoga in recent
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah.
There were 2 down in St. Helena,
Yes.
which were landmark properties.
landmark properties and very, very well-loved, much-loved restaurants that we all would go to, yeah. Are there any other resorts or hotels that are likely to be approved in Calistoga? I know
So
there's...
it's a very fair question. As we sit here today,
Yes.
The Merchant family with their Veranda project, as they're calling it, on the glider port, which is in the center part of Calistoga, they have an application in front of the city council. The city council has recently said we'd like to tap the brakes on hotel development. We've got the Four Seasons project and the Rosewoods project that are under construction. We kind of want to see how we absorb that as a community, let that settle a little bit. But with that said, the property owner of the glider port for the Veranda project, they are absolutely entitled to their due process, and they would like to apply. It is at this point, it would be the largest hotel in Calistoga. They're proposing 170 rooms, 3 stories. They have started their own community outreach, which is important for any project, regardless of size. So we're going to wait and see how the community feels about it. They have not started the public hearing process yet. It'll be interesting.
But they're doing some smart things, I think, from what I've read. They are offering, they're putting in a public parking area for how many cars?
Up to 490 cars.
That's
they're going to have a public
nice.
like amphitheater space.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been the merchant family, which will be the owner of the property, is the owner of the property. Excuse me. They do things very well. They've been in Calistoga a very long time. They are fantastic operators of Indian Springs. They went through an expansion a few years ago, adding Sam's Social Club. It's just a matter of there isn't so much question about the quality of the project as it is the timing and what we can absorb as a community at this point.
Yeah. So thinking about that, what about traffic? What are the plans for dealing with traffic? So,
the T word.
The T word, yeah. So just so our viewers know, Four Seasons Hotel is going to be opposite Solage on Silverado Trail, and the Rosewood Hotel is off 29. The driveway is off 29, just north of Diamond Mountain Road. So both of them right up near Lincoln Avenue, right?
Correct. Opposite ends of Lincoln Avenue.
Exactly. And that will bring a lot of traffic. So what are the plans there? You have a four-way stop on Lincoln Avenue at 29. I know that's not going to change for a while, but do you think in the future there is any plans to take the four-way stop out? Because, my personal opinion is if you take it out, you get flow of traffic with lights rather than stop, 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 right?
Right. So we've had, even prior to these projects coming on, we've had traffic challenges in the Up Valley.
Yes.
Some worthless facts. We have about 13,000 cars that pass through Calistoga on any given day.
Right.
85% of that traffic is cross-county commuting. It's people going from Lake County to Sonoma County to Napa County, et cetera, and it's all of us commuting to and from work. Resort impact, hotel impact is relatively minor in the scheme of things, somewhat estimated about 10 to 11%. And the commuting pattern of visitors is very different than you and I going to and from work. With that said, traffic is a reality that we have to contend with. I come from New England, as mentioned, and an enormous fan of rotaries or roundabouts.
Yes, Australia, same thing.
See, there we go. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
Northern California is not as comfortable with that. Those would be ideal solutions, but our community, when proposed, was not in favor of that. So we're working with Caltrans and the county to work on trafficking, signalization of Petrified Forest Road and Foothill Boulevard. The Lincoln Avenue 29 intersection, or Foothill Boulevard, is complicated because there's surrounded by all private land. There would have to be some significant acquisitions
for a roundabout because they take up so much room.
Or even for trafficking, traffic signals. We've got 2 gas stations on those corners, so those are other mitigation impacts. As there's not a quick, simple solution, and a lot of it has to do with housing. A lot of this cross-county commuting is because people have to get to jobs that they can't live near because they can't afford to live near where they work. So we're throwing a little bit of everything at it, trying to fix the intersections, traffic, housing, et cetera. But it's not unique to Calistoga. It's not unique to any community in the Bay Area, and certainly not in the county. But we're also aware of the fact that this could compromise and certainly complicate people's perception of Calistoga, who we want to come and visit and share in the beauty of Calistoga and leave their money behind. And
of course.
Go back home and tell everyone how wonderful it is.
And you've touched on a lot of subjects that we're going to get to there. But so let me just go back to the intersection there. I was thinking that what you're saying is that even, obviously, roundabouts take up a lot of space. But you're saying that you would still need to acquire land to even put in lights.
Correct. At Lincoln and Foothill Boulevard, because you have to do passing lanes, you have to have a bypass lane. So there's a relatively significant widening of the roadway that would have to happen there.
And what are the chances that you could widen the road before you get there to make another lane, to have another lane there?
It all becomes private property acquisition at that point. And, and that's a difficult subject around here, and rightly so. We're not big fans of eminent domain unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, got it. Sure.
And that's a particularly challenging intersection because all of the private property just abuts right up to it. There isn't a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, and that's a shame because it's just right near Rosewood. So while we're talking about traffic lights, etc., so you are putting in a traffic light at Petrified Forest Road.
Correct. Partnership with the county and the state.
Terrific. And Lynn Goldberg, your planning director,
Fantastic.
she told me, fantastic, she is.
She's great. We're very lucky to have her.
A shout out to Lynn. Thank you for always
Thumbs up, Lynn.
always being on the other end of the phone when I call for information, public information. So tell us about what's going on there at that intersection of Petrified Forest Road and Foothill Boulevard.
So in addition to the signalization project to try to help with the traffic flow there, we do have a proposal in front of the city right now for a convenience store, gas station, car wash, and restaurant. So that's just about to enter the public hearing process. It's officially an application in front of the planning department. Quite a bit of feedback from the community on that, pro, con, primarily con. Concerns about impact to traffic, concerns about environmental impact, concerns about noise, et cetera, et cetera. So that is very much at the front end of the process right now. What a lot of people sometimes don't understand or don't appreciate and will get criticism as a city is why do you hear these applications? Why not just turn them away from the get-go?
Oh.
And as you know, you were, as a private property owner, you are entitled to your due process.
Yeah.
So we'll go through that. We very much welcome and encourage and invite residential input because this will have an impact on all of us. With every project come benefits and also come some challenges, and this one certainly doesn't have a lack of either from that standpoint. And it is, you live it when you drive through there. It's a difficult intersection as we sit here today. We have to be very careful how we potentially complicate that as we move forward.
Oh, really?
Or try to mitigate for
it. I was so looking forward to the car wash. I'm going to stay positive. I'm looking forward to the car wash.
If that's all it was, we might be okay.
Right. So let's go back down the road a little bit to the Rosewood Hotel. The owners have also bought Reverie Winery and Vineyards and Von Strasser on Diamond Mountain Road. And those properties adjoin the parcel, Enchanted Hills, that they bought, which is 110, is that 110 acres?
88 acres.
88 acres.
Yep.
So those two...
Calistoga Hills. Correct,
Calistoga Hills. So those two wineries adjoin the resort. What do you know about those, what they're going to do with those properties, those wineries?
So the resort is on the city... It is in the city jurisdiction on the city side of Diamond Mountain, and then the two winery properties are in the county. They do abut each other, all three of the parcels, and it is our understanding that the resort owners and operators will incorporate the wineries as part of their experience, not as part of their development, but as part of their experience, where could foresee resort visitors, resort guests going over and having a wine experience. With that said, they won't be accessing that property via Diamond Mountain. It would be through the resort.
Right.
And they're very careful about the fact that you've got two different jurisdictions. You've got the City of Calistoga and the County of Napa.
Yeah.
There are certainly different rules and regulations for winery development versus resort development. And they're being very respectful of that. It's a natural progression when you go up there and you see, they all share a roadway at the top of the mountain type of thing. But they're very careful about and have been mitigated against using Diamond Mountain Road as their access point for either the wineries or the resort itself.
So they'll come in from the resort,
Correct. They'll still have access via Diamond Mountain Road.
Yes.
But their primary form of access would be...
The guests won't be going up there, and that's what's really been a concern.
Correct,
What can you tell us about the status of the Rosewood Hotel? I mean, I know a little bit, but why don't you tell our guests?
They have completed the first part of their development and access to the property off of Route 29 or Foothill Boulevard, St. Helena Highway. Pretty complicated property entrance. Beautiful now that it's done. And now they're moving on to the next phase, which is bringing further infrastructure up the hill. So that's probably another year. And then we're talking about, after that, about 2 years of going vertical on the actual buildings themselves. They're doing some design modifications. They've got an amazing architect who is known for pretty amazing properties around the world. But there's always that refinement that happens back and forth. So if I was a betting man, we won't see that open to guests for probably another 3 years.
Yeah, I would say so. The infrastructure is costing a fortune. Huge
a couple dollars here and there.
A couple of dollars here and there.
Certainly more than I have.
Tell us about workforce availability. Is it a challenge now? Obviously, it will be a challenge in the future. How you're going to address that, and of course, housing affordability.
So the two biggest challenges we have in Calistoga: social challenge is access to housing that's affordable. Business challenge is access to qualified labor or workforce. In Calistoga today, our unemployment rate is 1.2%. In the next 3 years, with the introduction of the Four Seasons project and the Rosewood project, we have another 500 jobs coming online. And no people to do that work. We are, if not tipping into, right on the precipice of literally a labor crisis. And we could say, do we have a housing problem because we have a labor problem, or do we have a labor problem because we have a housing problem? It really doesn't matter. I mean, they both impact one another. The first thing we tell any business who's coming to Calistoga, and we were very clear with this with the Rosewood and the Four Seasons project, was labor is going to be a concern. And we're trying to address that through reintroduction of the employee shuttle, which we attempted 2.5 years ago. We're also looking at some pretty assertive, if not aggressive, zoning changes in certain parts of town for higher density housing, workforce housing.
Within the city limits? Within
the city limits, correct. Yeah, we can't touch the ag preserve.
Right.
So we're trying to get at it from a bunch of different angles, but the reality of the situation is the entire Bay Area has a labor issue. It's exacerbated where we are because of, we're beautiful because we're isolated, but it also creates additional challenges because of our isolation. So, no bones about it. We have a housing issue, we have a labor issue, which often begs the question, then why would you let development happen? And the reality is if you don't grow, you die.
You die,
and we all know what everyone's financial situation was not even that many years ago.
Yes.
And what we try to do is just grow in a controlled and responsible manner, maintain our character and charm as best we can, but at the end of the day, things need to get done, sidewalks need to be fixed, and roads need to be paved, et cetera, et cetera, and somebody has to pay for that. And we'd much rather our visitors pay for it than our residents.
Now, I seem to recall there was a bus that was running. You put on a special bus running from Santa Rosa, was it, to Calistoga?
Correct.
For the workers.
Correct.
Why did that fail?
So the Chamber of Commerce spent a year developing it. We worked with some groups out of Silicon Valley who do this every single day. We launched it. The Chamber of Commerce initiated, paid for it the first 45 days, and then we turned to the employer base to say, okay, now it's your turn. And a few factors went into it. While we had a labor concern then, 2.5 years ago, it wasn't a crisis.
Right.
And as Americans, we're all married to our vehicle. People were concerned, if I don't drive over, how am I going to get home? If I have an emergency? And we had all those kind of stopgaps. Interestingly enough, some of those same employers have, in the last 3 months, come back to us to say, can you please reinitiate? I absolutely believe that one of the solutions to this employment issue is going to have to be an employer-funded shuttle program or employee transportation network, and we're going to look back at that.
Do you, within the city limits, do you make the developers have affordable housing?
So just like any other community throughout Napa County, they do have affordable housing impacts they have to pay. So it's either in lieu fees or they could build their own. Both the Four Seasons project and the Rosewood project had to contribute to our affordable housing fund, which we in turn, in both cases, used to acquire land that we're building projects on. There's a project right now, 30-unit senior housing project that's opening this month, actually.
Senior housing.
Senior housing.
Yeah.
Because we do have a significant need for that.
Yeah.
The next 2 projects where we have acquired land, more than likely, those will be workforce housing projects.
And who pays for that?
So the land, we take the housing fund, the city acquires the land, and then we go out to private developers who do this type of work, and we deed restrict the housing, and the city would lease them the land, and we go from there.
Interesting. Yeah. That's great. How do you think that Calistoga is different from other towns in the region?
Well, first of all, we're the most beautiful place on the planet. We all know that. I count myself very fortunate to have landed there and to have stayed there. It's beautiful. It's a special place. The people make it what it is today. And back referencing previous in our conversation, when Salage was going to open, it's going to change our character. When the Four Seasons opens, it'll change our character. The only thing that changes your character are the actual people who live and work there.
Right.
For me, it's an amazing place from its beauty, not only of its environment, but of the people there. And every day I wake up and consider myself very lucky to be there and honored and privileged to be representing our community as I have been able to do.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Tell me, how do you think that the expansion of the Charles Schulz Airport in Santa Rosa, only 25 to 30 minutes away, has increased tourism to Calistoga?
I happen to sit on representing Napa County and Calistoga on the tour. It's called the Airline Attraction Committee for the Santa Rosa Airport.
Right.
So I've watched a lot of this development happen. It has been a huge benefit for Calistoga.
Yes.
Especially as more and more direct flight cities are added to that airport. They've added
and
Phoenix.
I was going to say, can I just tell our viewers?
Please.
Yeah. They're now able to bring larger planes in from LA, San Diego, Vegas, Portland, and Seattle. And they were already flying in from Denver, Phoenix, Maui, and Mexico. And United Airlines does daily flights between Santa Rosa and San Francisco, which is fantastic.
Yep, so you can go daily on United from Santa Rosa into SFO and then anywhere in the world from there.
Anywhere in the world,
And then on American Airlines, directly from Santa Rosa to Phoenix to their hub, which gets you anywhere in the world. And it's been a huge plus for us. We market the fact that we're within, we call it 28 miles from touchdown to downtown.
Oh, I love that.
And the fact that you're that close to wine country, and we partner with Santa Rosa Airport or Sonoma County Airport, STS, on a lot of projects. And it's important for us because one of our other campaigns is Start Your Napa Valley Experience from the Top.
I was going to say, now it's the first port of entry into Napa Valley rather than the last for so many people.
Absolutely, and that also helps in some of the traffic issues that we have as you come further down Napa County. So having either people come up the 101 and over or land in Santa Rosa Airport. And there you go.
And to that end, I just have to say this to everybody because a lot of people in Napa Valley don't even realize this. If you are coming up from San Francisco to Calistoga, you don't come up through 29. You stay on 101, drop down on Mark West Springs Road and onto Petrified Forest Road into Calistoga. And all of my clients up there for 15 years have been telling me without traffic, it's an hour and 15 minutes. So, I'm always doing a plug for Calistoga.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Because so many people say, Latife is so far from San Francisco. I go, no, it's not.
Not at all.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a fantastic job up there, and you are so loved. I haven't found anybody who's said anything negative about you yet.
Oh, I could give you a list.
I'm looking.
I'll give you some names afterward.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My
it's really
pleasure.
been fantastic to have you.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you next week.